You know, I like this Saints pick. And I like it for a couple of different reasons. I love their big three. Obviously, Breeze, Hall of Famer, Mike Thomas, and all the money in the world, and Alvin Kamara. I love that big three. They can get it done. I love the acquisition of Jared Cook in the offseason. To me, that offense is unstoppable. Their defense actually faded a little bit towards the end of the season. The problem that I have with the Saints, and this is the one little small caveat that I have, is that they're in a very tough division. That division, they're going to get beat up playing 2 games against the Panthers and the Falcons and the Bucs, who are not very good, but they're going to get beat up just a bit. That's my concern about the Saints. To me, I think they will end up winning, but I have a close second in the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their division actually is probably the easier one in the NFC. You're talking about Dallas without Zeke. You have the Giants have no clue what they're going to end up doing.
Maybe 2 rookie quarterbacks starting by midseason in that division.
That's right. So they had the best road. You talk about what the Patriots were able to do. They were able to do that a lot because of they had an easy road throughout the season, and they're not getting beat up and not having guys injured. So that's important. But I think the Saints have just as good a shot as anybody. I love what they're able to do offensively, score the football. That's going to be huge.
What you said about the division, obviously they're in a tough division. I would say that's the case for every division in the NFC except the one you said, the Philadelphia Eagles. Them and Dallas, that's it. And so they do have an advantage over not just the Saints, but every other division winner, because I think all those divisions are going to be very tough and you're going to get beat up. But that said, I do still like the Saints to win the NFC. I think obviously they got incredible motivation, and everybody's motivated. We know that. But they have beat this drum so hard about what happened in the NFC Championship game that they're going to have to come out and back it up. And I think they will. I think they're going to be motivated in that way. I think the loss of Ingram, they're going to be out to prove that they can do it without him. He was great for him, but they let him go for a reason. So I think they're going to be out to prove they can do it without him. My question is, Drew Brees, was what we saw in the second half of last season when he fell off, was that just, some
an aberration?
Right, an aberration, or was that who he is now, because he will be 41 years old in January?
One of the things, and I'm looking back, I look back at Drew Brees' season. Obviously, last year they started without Mark Ingram. Big-time loss for them because now they're not running the ball as much. The first 3 games, Drew Brees averaged 42 pass attempts per game. That's way too much for an older quarterback. You have to get a running game established. Let Alvin Kamara run the ball a little bit more. Let the running game dictate how you go offensively. And then allow Drew Brees to be the quarterback that he's always been, consistent. He's going to be a great leader. He's going to be accurate. He's going to get that team up and down the football field. That doesn't change this season.
The Eagles aren't my pick, but I do think the Eagles are going to have the second-best record in the conference. And one thing to add to your guys' point about their division, the ease of it, if you will, is also the NFC East had a good draw this year in that this year their cross-conference matchup is the AFC East, which is almost assuredly the worst division in football. You got the Patriots, and then 3 teams have been trying to catch the Patriots for 20 years. So you're talking about, if you're the Eagles, you got 4 games against the Giants and against Washington, and then another 3 against Jets, Dolphins, and Bills. And you'd much rather draw this year in the AFC the East than the AFC North, which we think is potentially a 3 playoff team division. So that's just good luck. It's 1 in 4 years. That's what they got. But my pick is not the Saints. And it's mostly because of what you alluded to, which is, who is Drew Brees going to be this year? John Elway and Joe Montana, 2 of the 5 greatest quarterbacks ever, retired at age 38. Dan Marino's last good year was age 38. Peyton's last good year was age 30 or 39. Brett Favre's that's the year when they hit the wall. Last good year or the year before. Brett Favre hit the wall at 41. Brees, we did see 2 different seasons for him. The first dozen games and then the end of the year. Even the playoff games. 2 short fields against the Rams that resulted in just 3 points. They had the ball in overtime. And that drive ended on a Drew Brees interception. I don't think the Saints have a good enough defense to be a dominant team without a dominant Drew Brees. So I'm going to go with the guy over my left shoulder, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I do believe Rodgers is the most talented quarterback in NFL history. I think Rodgers used the Shaq example. Who's best at their best is best of everybody. In the whole history of the league, I'd take Rodgers. Man, that can't be true, and him miss the playoffs 3 straight years while he's still, it might be the end of it, but still in the prime of his career. You talked about chip on his shoulder. Roger got chip on his shoulder now. The coach is gone. They spent money in free agency. Those young wide receivers that he was a little annoyed with last year are not quite so young. There's a lot of reasons to believe that Rodgers, if he can be healthy, can be back to league MVP Aaron Rodgers, but it's a similar problem they have that the Saints have, which is 2 other viable contenders within their own division in the Bears and the Vikings. Like, both those teams have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. But I think the Packers can pile up enough wins to have home field go through Lambeau for the first time in forever. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have the best year he's had in 5 years.
You're right about that division. The Vikings, Bears, two of the best defenses that we have in the league. The big question, I think, for the Saints is almost the same question for the Packers. Will their defense step up and play? We already know that the quarterbacks will get it done. I think your question about Drew Brees, early on, they put way too much on his plate early on last season, and it affected them towards the latter part of the season.
So you think that's what it was? He obviously looked great.
No, he looked totally
Ingram.
different, yeah. And I just think that they put way too much on him early on. And I think Sean Payton, who is a very good coach, they'll take some of that off early on and allow the running game to lead this football team early on, which will allow Drew Brees to be healthier and more viable towards the latter part of the season. But listen, the Packers are going to be good. The big question about them is, will Matt LaFleur, will Aaron Rodgers, will they mix? But also, will they get Aaron Jones going? Right. Will they get that running game going? Will they put that team in a position where in November, in December, when it's cold and rainy, they can run the football? That starts in September. That starts in August in the offseason, and that has to get done for that Green Bay team.
Are you really worried about the relationship at this point with Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, or has that been kind of the trendy thing to worry about with that team? Yes, it's a new head coach. It's a new offense. It's a much improved defense, at least for the most part. They actually spent some money in free agency, which they haven't in a while. That relationship is the biggest question for that team?
I don't think it's the biggest question. To me, the biggest question is, how will the run game affect that offense? But I think that it is a question, and everything looks good. Everything looks good in the offseason until it's Game 5 and you guys have lost 2 games in a row. Now, who you put the blame on, the coach or the quarterback? Those are the 2 biggest shoulders to put the blame on. Now, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying, hey, it's not me, and I'm sure the coach is going to be saying the same thing. That's where you could run into some trouble in Green Bay.
One quick note for the Saints, who 2 years ago started out 0-2, then went on a great run. Last year, lost the first game to Tampa and then needed overtime to beat Cleveland when Cleveland wasn't good yet, and then went on their great run. This year, they are the only team in football to start the season with 4 consecutive games against playoff teams from last year. Houston, at the Rams, at Seattle, home for Dallas. Even if you think some of those teams are equipped to take a step backwards, they cannot get off to the slow start that they've gotten off to last couple of seasons.
That loss, the opening loss, that was Fitzpatrick's big game, right?
Fitzmagic.
Guess who was just named starter coming into this year?
Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
It'll be great for about a month.
No doubt.
Sorry, Josh Rosen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.